Hey guys, it's Nurse Jet, Nursing the Truth. I hope everyone's having a great day. So go see my video about that the doctors needs to call on the god Apollo because they did make an oath to him, and that would be the Hippocratic Oath. So go check that out. Very interesting information, guys. So what am I going to talk about now? As everything has to do with Egypt. You keep saying maybe to yourselves, why am I hung up on Egypt so much? Because a lot of things come from Egypt. Like I said, I don't mean to bash Samaria or Mesopotamia and Babylon and Assyria, but it just seems like everything that we've been handed down to this age and time came from Egypt. Whether it be Christianity, and I'm not talking about Orthodox, what we got through the Roman Catholic Universal Church. I'm talking Gnosticism, Essene, Therapeutai, that kind of thing. So what I came across, I thought this was very interesting. It was last week. I meant to do a video on this, but like I said, I've been very busy dealing with my little Jack Russell dog, Sunny, and she's sleeping right now in her kennel, and so this is the only time I get to do my videos. She's like a little infant, So now this is quite interesting what I'm going to talk about, and it's Eusebius of Caesarea. My goodness, how many times are we going to find good, juicy gossip information from Eusebius? Especially, he is the author of the History of the Church, and he did a book called The Life of Constantine the Great, which I don't think he was great at all. So, now Eusebius, he was born in 265 CE and he died in 340. And he really wasn't around that much longer after the Council of Nicaea in 325. So whatever he had to do it in a real quick hurry. Now, did you know that there were Egyptian Christians that were martyred in Tyre? You're like, and I about fell out the other day when I read this, because I'm like, wow, another, jab, to the church. So in Tyre, in the Diocletian persecution, now this is by Eusebius' notes, which started in 303, he said was very serious. And Eusebius mentions the martyrdom of Bishop Tyrrhenian and the death of a youth named Ulpian, who remarkably suffered the traditional punishment. And Eusebius also offers an eyewitness account of the execution of 5 Egyptians in the circus of Tyre. Now, let's see what this circus is. So I hit the word circus. It's the hippodrome. Now, as we know, Tyre is in Phoenicia, one of the main cities in the eastern Mediterranean. Now, Tyre's hippodrome dates to the 2nd century, and it has a capacity of about 40,000 people and was built for chariot races. And they also had large luxurious buildings with mosaics and equipped with baths. Now, they were meant mainly for the chariot races and other types of sports, but it says that it may have been the place while during the Diocletian persecutions, 5 Egyptian Christians were tortured to death. So, in his book, he says, Eusebius, who that saw them was not astonished at the numberless stripes and at the firmness which these truly wonderful athletes of religion exhibited under them. And at their contest, immediately after the scourging with bloodthirsty wild beasts, as they were cast before leopards and different kinds of bears and wild boars and bulls goaded with fire and red hot iron, and at the marvelous endurance of these noble men in the face of all sorts of wild beasts. We were present ourselves when these things occurred, and have put on record the divine power of our martyred Savior Jesus Christ, which was present and manifested itself mightily in the martyrs. For a long time the man-devouring beast did not dare to touch or draw near the bodies of those dear to God, but rushed upon others from the outside, irritated, and urged them on. And they would not in the least touch the holy athletes, as they stood alone and naked and shook their hands at them to draw them toward themselves. For they were commanded to do this. But whenever they rushed at them, they were restrained as if by some divine power and retreated again. Thus continued for a long time, and occasioned no little wonder to the spectators. And as the first wild beast did nothing, a second and a third were let loose against one and the same martyr. One could not be astonished at the invincible firmness of these holy men, and the enduring and immovable constancy of those whose bodies were young. You could have seen a youth not 20 years of age standing unbound and stretching out his hands in the form of a cross, with unterrified and untrembling mind, engaged earnestly in prayer to God, and not in the least going back or retreating from the place where he stood, while bears and leopards, breathing rage and death, almost touched his flesh, and yet their mouths were restrained, I know not how, by a divine and incomprehensible power, and they ran back again to their place. Such an one was he. Again, you might have seen others, for they were 5 in all, cast before a wild bull, who tossed them in the air with his horns, those who approached from the outside and mangled them, leaving them to be taken up half dead. But when he rushed with rage and threatening upon holy martyrs, who were standing alone, he was unable to come near them, but through he stomped with his feet and pushed in all directions with his horns, and breathed rage and threatening on account of the irritation of the burning irons. He was, nevertheless, held back by the sacred province, and as he in no wise harmed them, they let loose other wild beasts upon them. Finally, after these terrible and various attacks upon them, they were all slain with the sword, and instead of being buried in the earth, they were committed to the waves of the sea. Such was the conflict of those Egyptians who contended nobly for religion entire. Well, Eusebius, you're such a sweetheart in making this, menagerie of text. And especially, when you die, you have people writing for you in the dark ages of this, orthodoxy. So, as I've said before, you have the Egyptian Gnostics, you have the Essenes, the Nazarenes, the Therapeutae of Egypt. And all these things came out, and even the, like I said, all the Jews that came from Egypt, the Jewish sects. So, why not? There was never even in Herodotus' books, there was never a name called Jew. There's never a word like Jew. So this is a contemporary word. So you think about it how you want, but think about the Gnostics that were in France, the Albigensian Crusades, the Bogomils, the Cathars. They were Gnostics, come from Egypt. I'm sorry, guys, I have a little bit of a allergy problem going on. But anyway, this fine-tuned machine called the Roman Catholics, whatever they were trying to do, they wanted everyone to conform to their ways. And if you didn't believe what they wanted you to believe, then you were killed. So my question is, you have the Roman Empire that took over all that area. Okay, you have Tyre, which Tyre is a Phoenician city. And, Egypt had Tyre at one time. And so you're going to have Egyptians living in Tyre in Egypt, because they had a small Tyrian camp in Memphis in Egypt. So there was mixing going on. Like I said, there's none of us that are pure bred. But you have these Egyptians that are in Tyre, and the Roman Empire took over, and a lot of the ancient Egyptians worship the gods, Isis and Ptah and Set, whatever. So if this happened around 303, that's before the Council of Nicaea, that's before the Edict of Milan. And so what they believed or what they were doing, whatever, was heretical to them. They didn't like it. So it's just the way it was. So there again, you have Egyptian Christians, whether they were Essene, Therapeutite, Gnostic, Nazarene, or worshiping just the gods of the temples, but it was not orthodoxy like they want you to believe. And even if that was the case, if they were Orthodox Roman Catholics, why are the Catholics killing their own kind? That's something that we've never stopped to think about. We're sitting in church, as I said yesterday, and the preacher man's up there talking about, oh, they killed the Christians. But wait, I thought that Constantine and all them were Christians. Oh yeah, he, Edict of Milan, and the Romans. And that's another thing we got to talk about. Constantine was in the Mithra cult, Sol Invictus. He didn't like the Jewish people, whether they were Egyptian Jews, or whatever. He didn't want to have the same day that they did for rest or what have you. He's the rites, the rituals. So he did Sunday, which was the day of the sun, which was Mithras. You go down into the catacombs in Rome, right now at the Vatican. Now, you're thinking to yourself, praise God, first century, and I'm going to go down there and I'm going to see all this first century stuff. No, you don't. First of all, the Vatican, there was the first church where they had all their meetings and their stuff was the Hagia Sophia. It's in Turkey. That was built, I believe, by Emperor Justinian, which he was horrible. Him and his wife, they were both horrible. He's the one that got the reincarnation kind of stuff, or the resurrection of the souls, taken out of the Bible. This Bible has been edited so many times and it's been played with, so there's not really a true answer to anything. So the Vatican, if my memory serves me correctly, did not start building or anything until like the 1400s. So you have this place built on top of bodies, graves and stuff like that. So, all these places, you have the priests that were in cults, Mithra priests, that, in some of these places they found orthodoxy, with Mithras down there, drinking to Mithras. So you're like, well, wait a minute, but where's Jesus in this? If Jesus was in the first century, but you're drinking to Mithras and you're doing Mithraic cults, Mithraic cults, drinking wine, eating the flesh, that's even in the scriptures where it talks about Jesus is saying this Eucharist. Well, the Eucharist was made up by the Holy Catholic Church. So if you're an Essene, you don't eat flesh. If you're a Nazarene, you don't eat flesh. You don't want nothing to do with blood. So for this person to say, drink this wine and let it be in representation of my blood, and eat this as my flesh and do it in remembrance of me, that was a Mithraic cult thing. And really, if you go back even further, it has something to do with Osiris. I mean, that's, you need to go watch a video that I made about that. Basically as the sun deity, and fertility and growth and harvesting. So, for someone to really say that is a freaking joke. And you need to do your homework about all this stuff, because once you start seeing, where this stuff is coming from, I mean, you can't help. You're either going to laugh or you're going to cry, or you're going to do both. And when I started going down these rabbit trails over these past 3 years, and I'm still learning and I'm still doing. I mean, this is going to be, once you crack open your shell and you start, quote, seeing the light, and you can manufacture through the lies and what's not, you're like, wait a minute. This is not right. This is not what I thought it was. I had anger. I had a sick feeling in my stomach. I felt like he was going to save me. I'm a blasphemer. What is this going to do to my marriage? There was just so many things that, I just really didn't know how I was going to get through this. So it's once you start seeing it, and you know, the Christian movement through this church, it has made people crazy. I mean, like thinking a certain way, not you don't, other types of groups you don't like, you don't care for. It's almost like, you know, you're in a special club or something. I don't know. It's just real weird. And now that I'm out of it, I can kind of I can relate to other sides now. I can see their point of view. I can see their discrepancies. I can I look at people differently than I did before. I look at different nationalities different. I think once you break away and you see someone for who they are, regardless of their skin color or where country they're from, I think that you can really break boundaries. And the masses are waking up very quickly, an exponential rise. I mean, I'm seeing videos every day where people are talking about this more so than I've ever seen in the past 3 years. People are saying, well, who is the real historical Yeshua? You know, and the mythicist and these scrolls, and I mean, you've got so many things. I mean, it's like, you know, you hear, oh, well, the Christians were persecuted for Christ. But if this orthodoxy didn't get started until 325 of this, quote, church, then all these other groups that are called Christians, they had their own interpretation of what the all was. Now, different people of the sects, like Simon Magus, and I'm going to do a video on him, another one pretty soon. Simonians, he taught a Gnostic point of view. You had Dositheus, he had a point of view. Essenes, they had a point of view. Therapeutai, they had a point of view. Judaism, they had a point of view. So Basilides, they had a, you see what I'm saying? Each person, the leader of the sect or the leaders, they had a different response to life in general, the souls in general. It's no different than all these different denominations. Is one person totally right? Is one person totally wrong? It's in what you want to believe. But you know, when I bring the Christianity thing to the plate, I'm trying to prove and let people know where a lot of this stems from. And whether there's a historical Yeshua or not, which, you know, the Jesus in the Bible, as far as dying for your sins, resurrecting on the third day, coming back on a horse, you know, wrapping some demon up and, you know, throwing him in a pit for 1,000 years is not true. It's mythologized. Do I think that there was a person possibly in the first century that was a zealot, was a revolutionary figure, that was the king of Judea or wanted to be the king of Rome, had a family history, possibly. There was something going on in the first century that was enough to be circulated about. But there again, it's all up until interpretation. But what I'm trying to show is the Catholic Church is very, very evil. And take that whatever you want. Your interpretation of evil or dark or whatever. I just think that, this point in time is very serious. We have all got to let the light in each and every one of us shine. We got to let truth come out. I mean, and it has nothing to do even with these videos. I mean, go to work, tell truth. Go to, go with your husband somewhere, tell truth. Go with your friends, spread truth. When you see something that is not right or is, someone's spilling something that's not right or they're trying to tell a lie, spread truth. There's nothing more strong than telling the truth and knowing you got your facts to back it up on. So, until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this video and mini lecture from the nurse. And just remember what Thoth says. When you search for the truth and you find the truth, then the truth shall set you free. And I'm waiting for all of this to fall. I'm waiting for all the religions to fall. And I'm ready for the big showdown. How about you guys? Until next time, Hotep. Goodbye.